Good day, everyone. My name is Marian Shimad of the Board of Investments, here to discuss with you the rules of origin under the Philippines-EFTA Free Trade Agreement. To begin, the rules of origin, or ROO, refers to the criteria needed to determine the nationality of goods. It is used to determine whether goods comply with a set of requirements, thus making the good eligible for preferential tariff. ROO is similar to a person's passport, which determines the nationality of goods. So to understand the rules of origin under the Philippines-EFTA Free Trade Agreement, we have four key features or characteristics. First is that it is exporter-friendly. Second is that it is forward-looking. Third, it is trade facilitative. And finally is that it is administratively easy. For being exporter-friendly, the agreement provides for liberal PSRs for as long as the processes are not considered minimal operations or min-ops. So the criteria or requirement for each of the goods is set out in the product-specific rules or PSRs. The agreement provides for liberal PSRs for as long as the process, as earlier mentioned, is not considered minimal operations. Minimal operations are processes considered insufficient to confer originating status to a good. Article 5 of the agreement provides for the list of minimal operations. The agreement provides for liberal PSRs such that a product may be manufactured from non-originating materials of any heading. For example, a Philippine company imports fabric from China. This fabric is cut and sewn to make garments for export to Switzerland. Since the process cut and sewn goes beyond the minimal operations, the garment is considered to be originating. Note that the rule considers a product originating as long as the processing done is beyond minimal operations. Next, on what makes the PH-EFTA unique is that it is forward-looking. The agreement allows the use of ex-works price instead of the free on board or FOB value of a good. The agreement defines exports price as the price actually paid or payable for goods to the producer in the party where the last working or processing was carried out, in accordance with the International Commercial Terms or Incoterms, excluding internal taxes, which may be repaid when goods are exported. In layman's terms, ex-works price is similar to FOB value but excludes transport costs. The agreement also adopts the qualifying value content or QVC of 35% instead of the usual 40% or higher. So another feature of the PH-EFTA is that it is trade facilitative. It uses direct and indirect method of computing the qualifying value content or QVC. To compute whether a good qualifies for the required value content of 35%, exporters are given the prerogative to use either the direct or indirect method. So here we have an overview. For the direct method, the qualifying value content is computed using this formula: originating materials divided by the ex-works price times 100. Given the example on the screen, the good is considered to be originating, given that the qualifying value content is 60%, which satisfies the value criterion of 35%. On the other hand, the indirect method formula, as shown on the screen, given this example, the good will also be considered to be originating, given that the computed qualifying value content using this method is 60%, which also satisfies the value criterion of 35%. On the PH-EFTA being trade facilitative, it adopts the PSR at the chapter level, and it uses descriptive PSR rather than the usual technical terms to make it easier for exporters. The PSR adopted under the PH-EFTA FTA is on a per chapter basis with certain exemptions. This means that, generally, one rule will apply across all the products in one chapter, thus making it easier for exporters to understand the rules. Further, the presentation of PSR is descriptive, which further explains the processing, thus may avail of preferential treatment when exported under the agreement. For change in chapter, instead of the usual CC, the agreement indicates manufacture from non-originating materials of any chapter except that of the product. So an example of the application of change in chapter or CC is shown on the screen. A ship with HS code 890200 is produced in the Philippines using non-originating sheet piling with HS code 730110 from China. The PSR of the fishing vessel is CC. Since the non-originating stainless steel with HS code 730110 is from a different chapter from the final good with HS code 890200, the CC rule has been therefore met and the fishing vessel is considered as originating. For change in heading, instead of the usual CTH, or change in tariff heading, the agreement indicates manufacture from non-originating materials of any heading except of the product. So here is an example of the application of CTH or change in tariff heading. So we have filled chocolate with HS code 180631, which is produced in Switzerland using non-originating cocoa powder with HS code 180500 from Netherlands. The PSR of the filled chocolate is manufactured from non-originating materials of any heading except that of the product or CTH. Since non-originating cocoa powder with the HS code 180500 is from a different heading from the final good, which is 180631, the PSR has been therefore met and the filled chocolate is considered as originating when exported to the Philippines. So for the Philippines EFTA being administratively easy, the agreement allows the use of origin declaration or OD as proof of origin. This will eliminate the certificate of origin or CO requirement for every shipment to EFTA. Once the goods for export meet the required rules, the exporter must certify that the goods that will be exported are originating by accomplishing the origin declaration or OD form. The Philippines EFTA adopted the Origin Declaration Scheme, which has two tracks. Under the OD scheme of the agreement, approved exporters can issue their own declaration and are only required to indicate their authorization number, which can be obtained by registering with the Bureau of Customs or BOC. Note that the registration with the BOC for approved exporter is free. Meanwhile, authorized exporters can also issue their own declaration and are required to affix their signature in lieu of the authorization number. So these are the list of required documents to apply for approved exporters under the Bureau of Customs. Note that those applying as approved exporters who are not manufacturers or producers must have knowledge on how the goods were manufactured or produced and how these satisfy the rules of origin or ROO requirements to make an origin declaration under the Philippines EFTA FTA. Here we have the template of the origin declaration or OD form. Note that an OD form may be issued in a commercial invoice, bill of lading, packing list, or any other commercial document. Other key features of the Philippines EFTA rules of origin are the following. So we have the Minimis, which allows goods that do not meet the required change in tariff classification to qualify for preferential treatment, provided that the value of non-originating materials that did not meet the required CTC does not exceed 20% of the ex-works price of the good. We also have the principle of territoriality, which provides that goods may be processed outside the Philippines or EFTA states, provided that the total value of the processing done on the goods does not exceed 15% of the ex-works price. In addition, the total value of the processing done on the goods and the non-originating materials should not exceed the value allowed in the PSR list. Then we also have minimal operations, wherein it provides for the list of processes considered insufficient to confer originating status. The agreement further defines simple processes. Then finally, we have neutral elements. These refer to the materials used to produce the goods but not directly incorporated into the goods are originating and may be considered in the computation of value content, such as power, fuel, or lubricants, among others. The consideration of neutral elements as originating is an advantage for the Philippines, noting that power cost is included in the computation of the total value content of a good. So there we have it. To understand the rules of origin, we discussed how it is exporter-friendly, forward-looking, trade facilitative, and administratively easy under the Philippines EFTA FTA. So if you have any further questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to the Board of Investments. Thank you and have a good day.